dwell on it, and then we reflect that in our actions. So we want to take a positive view about Jehovah as by pardoning and finding thanks.
Thank you. Brother Esther, please.
In chapter 8, verse 19 showed that the Israelites are still practicing or having a fast 4 times a year. It was in regards to their 70 years in exile. Jehovah says you don't have to do that anymore. You lift yourselves up. He says, for the exaltation and joy for the house of Jehovah, festivals of rejoicing instead of fasting. And then he says, so love, truth, and peace. So he was really concerned about their welfare, and he's also concerned about ours.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next, last question. What other spiritual gems have you discovered in this week's Bible reading? Sister Parr, please.
Chapter 3 and verse 1 shows how Satan was active in resisting the efforts of the Jews to complete the temple's building, but how the temple was rebuilt anyways due to God's Spirit. And today, that same Spirit is active in us. It can remove any obstacles, and it can give us zeal and energize us while we're doing Jehovah's will.
Chapter 1, verses 3 has really one phrase over here when Jehovah says, return to me, and I will return to you. For this phrase over here combined really, for example, for those is fellowship of inactive. But actually, if you analyze ourselves and our spirituality, we know how it is Jehovah caring for us. We know how it is Jehovah bless so much us. This is really so important to keep motivating our spirituality.
Thank you for your comment. Perhaps one more comment. Okay. Thank you very much for all your comments.
We now have the Bible reading of Zechariah chapter 8, verses 14 to 23. And John Gaylor will be handling that one for us.
For this is what Jehovah of armies says. Just as I had determined to bring calamity on you, because your forefathers made me indignant, says Jehovah of armies, and I felt no regret. So at this time I have determined to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Do not be afraid. These are the things you should do. Speak the truth with one another, and the judgments in your gates must promote truth and peace. Do not scheme calamity against one another in your hearts, and do not love any false oath, for these are all things that I hate, declares Jehovah. The word of Jehovah of armies again came to me, saying, this is what Jehovah of armies says. The fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th month, the fast of the 7th month, and the fast of the 10th month will be occasions for exaltations and joy for the house of Judah, festivals of rejoicing. So love, truth, and peace. This is what Jehovah of armies says. It will yet come to pass that peoples and the inhabitants of many cities will come, and the inhabitants of one city will go to those of another and say, let us earnestly go to beg for the favor of Jehovah, and to seek Jehovah of armies. I am also going, and many people and mighty nations will come to seek Jehovah of armies in Jerusalem, and to beg for the favor of Jehovah. This is what Jehovah of armies says. In those days 10 men will out of all the languages of the nations will take hold. Yes, they will take firm hold of the robe of a Jew, saying, "We want to go with you, for we have heard that God is with you people."
Thank you very much, John. We really appreciate you taking your part like this. A little nervous sometimes. Fairly new student to the school, so I understand where you're coming from. However, you did really well. Really enjoyed it. And you were working on principal ideas emphasized. And what we need to do here is when we read aloud, we need to put special emphasis on the principal ideas. So what was the idea behind the reading? I believe that the idea was, this is what the word of Jehovah says. This is what Jeremiah was, Jeremiah, I believe. This is what he, this is what he was, Zechariah. This is what he was trying to say. He was trying to emphasize Jehovah's word. So we want to make sure that our message is easy to remember. So the message is, this is what the word of Jehovah says. It's effective. Now, an effective reader has in mind the principal ideas in the entire body of material that he is presenting. This influences his placement on the emphasis, which you did. If the process isn't followed, okay, what happens is nothing stands out clearly, and everything becomes a blur, and the audience easily becomes distracted. So we need to really focus when we're doing that. And we do that if the central idea or important event, it would be appropriate to make it stand out. It's important to do that. If the material is delivered with proper emphasis, it says in the book here, these principal ideas are more likely to be remembered. Isn't that what we want our audience to do? Remember what we say? So that should be our goal. There's various ways in which a speaker can convey the emphasis needed to help the audience identify the main points. You might use heightened enthusiasm, or change the pace in which he's speaking, or the depth of feeling, right? Or use proper gesture. Be tall, be short, these kinds of gestures. So we need to analyze the printed material before we read it in order to identify the principal ideas around which it is developed. And we need to mark those. Then that way when we mark them, we know when to give proper emphasis. Now we'll go on to our next speaker, who is just a last-minute speaker, Nicole Farr, please. And her part is... Yeah, finish your call.
It's nice to find you home. I'm talking to people who are concerned about world conditions. Many I speak to feel that the world is out of control. How do you feel?
Definitely, for sure. It's absolutely crazy.
Why do you think conditions are so bad?
You know, I don't know, greed, selfishness, I guess. There's so many different reasons.
Yeah, there's probably a really long list. Thanks for sharing. I was asking people's opinion on one reason that the Bible gives. It's here in Jeremiah. It says, "I well know, O Jehovah," the name of God, "that man's way does not belong to him. It does not belong to man who is walking, even to direct his steps." So according to the Bible, men weren't meant to rule themselves. And when they try, what happens? What do we see today?
Just lots of problems.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that idea that humans need God's guidance to be successful?
Not so sure I would go that far with the idea.
Thanks for your honesty. No matter what we believe, you probably would agree that most of us would like to be hopeful, would like a bright future.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And our latest magazine actually features an article that talks about
a bright future. It's a positive message for all people. And maybe next time, if I get a chance to talk with you, I can give you some evidence that convinces us that this hope is real. Sure, I actually like that.